Hello. Do not change the channel. Do not adjust your dial. It is Tiffany, not Wayne. I know. I'm sorry. I don't look near as good as Wayne does, but you get me on this Monday evening. So we are going to go over a story that I found today. I went to Barnes and Noble and I had to have so much restraint when I saw this table full of spooky stuff from my hometown. But before we get going with that story, if you guys have not subscribed to this channel, please do. We have some amazing guests that are coming up and you don't want to miss it. So, subscribe to us, ring the bell, it'll be amazing. Also, if you have had your own encounter or have a spooky story to tell and you would like to share it with us, you can contact both of us, Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com or myself, Tiffany at paranormalworldproductions.com. And while you're at it, head over to paranormalworldproductions.com and show all of your love and support to the other shows there. They all work so hard behind the scenes to bring you everything it is that you guys like to see and hear from us that do this. And while we're on the support train, go to reaperapparelco.com. We have partnered with them, and you are still able to use that promo code Paranormal Odyssey to get that extra 10% off. It will help them. They have an amazing story, so absolutely head over there. So yeah, as I was saying, I went to Barnes and Noble today after my two trips to the grocery store. It was kind of like my Monday reprieve. But my husband would be proud because I had to show so much constraint when I saw this table full of spooky books from my hometown. So I picked up Monsters of Virginia, and I was thumbing through here, and there are so many great stories in here, and I'm going to read you one that I found. It is about the Mount Vernon monster. So, through the more than 400 years of Virginia history, there have been numerous reports of unknown and unidentifiable creatures that have frightened citizens from the early settler days to the present. Here are a few such cases. The Mount Vernon monster. It is hard to describe the sound. It is a very heavy sound, a foreboding one. It is chilling. It shakes one's core to hear it. It is like something is in severe pain, and the noise that it is made in apparent exhalations is labored and portends deep suffering. The Washington Post noted it sounded like someone being strangled in the shower. It comes in waves, sometimes several wails in succession, sometimes with a few minutes of eerie silence in between, as if something in the dark interior of the woods from which it emanates has distracted whatever is making the disturbance. It is the sound of the Mount Vernon monster. The screams were heard off and on for about 3 or 4 years from 1978 into the early 1980s. They came from a patch of forest near Southwood, an upper middle class neighborhood in the Mount Vernon district of Fairfax County, Virginia, only a mile or so from George Washington's plantation home. Much of the wooded area has since been developed, but in those days, it was mostly dark swampland. William T. Hark, a medical doctor now practicing in Richmond, grew up in this region. In August of 1995, he wrote the author, I am writing you about the Mount Vernon monster, which I think is a very interesting mystery that was never solved, he said. It began in the summer and fall of 1978 when I was 11 years old. My family and I started to hear an eerie wailing at night. It is difficult to describe the sound except it was like heavy breathing, but extremely loud. People said it would cause their windows to rattle. We could hear it through our storm windows. Sometimes it would go on for 15 minutes. Other times it's just a couple of wails. The sound was only heard at night, usually between midnight and 5 a.m. We would hear it for a couple of days in a row, then not for a few weeks. Weather didn't matter. The sound would occur in pleasant weather, rainstorms, and even after 6 inches of snow. Eventually, neighbors began talking to each other about the phenomena. They called the police. Nobody had any idea what this sound was. Theories included a hoax, an owl, a bear, and an animal trapped in a storm drain. By the time police would arrive, however, the noise would have stopped. I remember hearing that some officers did hear it once, and they ran. In May of 1979, the Washington Post ran an article headlined, "The Mount Vernon Monster." The subhead read, "Police, Residents Intensify Hunt for Howling Haunt." Staff writer Blaine Hardin began his article this way: "It screamed again in Mount Vernon early yesterday morning. Ralph Stickman, the Fairfax County game warden who had been waiting for it in the woods, had just given up and started for his car when he heard that eerie, muted wail. Children have been frightened and dogs have barked." Later in the week, after the article appeared, Fairfax County Police dispatched a helicopter to hover over the woods, which covered about 100 acres. 6 policemen were sent into the woods and told to signal the helicopter by radio. If they saw anything, they found nothing. According to Hardin, Michael Berger, a PhD in wildlife management who works for the National Wildlife Federation, has heard the night cries and says they do not sound human. Hart said, and the Post reported, that a woman named Thelma Crisp, who lived on Union Farm Road, claimed she had actually seen the sound maker in her backyard. It was about 6 feet tall, she said, and it was hairy and walked upright. Police asked her not to discuss her alleged sighting. Shocker, because that's how it always is nowadays. Seems like that's how it was then too. A crew from a television station came out one night and recorded the sounds, as did Hark, but studies of the tapes proved inconclusive. The newspaper article acknowledged that the screamer has not harmed anyone, although several residents have reported that it eats food placed in the woods. The sound continued intermittently into the early 1980s. "I don't know when it wailed for the last time," said Hark. Finally, the section of forest behind my parents' home was rezoned and then developed by builders. Even now, years later, I still have no idea what caused it. There were lots of rumors. An animal is a possibility, but I don't know what type would have made that sound. I can't accept a supernatural source, but yet it still keeps me wondering. So that's very interesting. I can't wait to get into the rest of this book with the rest of these stories, and it's short and sweet, 9 minutes in, good to go. But the description here that she had made, Miss Thelma Crisp, said that it was 6 feet tall, hairy, and walked upright, and then it made like wailing noises, right? So that kind of sounds Bigfootish a little, maybe. I don't know. Not everything is a Bigfoot. I know. I was just saying. Yeah. So thanks for coming, and do subscribe if you haven't yet. We also have our membership for $1.99. So you get all these extra perks. And yeah, so if you know anything about the Mount Vernon monster, I live in Roanoke, Virginia, so it would be really cool to hear. Just leave your comments below. And thanks for coming by. Have a good rest of your Monday evening.